Brandon, you ready?
Yeah.
Frank, you ready?
Yeah.
Tim, you ready?
Yeah, why not?
That's my new thing. I'm individually checking in with each of you before we start. Here we go. Fool is the shepherd who heeds every bleat of the flock. This is episode 328 of Insert Credit, an audio magazine as essential to video game discourse as its buzzer is horrible. I'm Alex Jaffe, and my Final Fantasy job is Judge Master.
Judge Master.
I'm Frank Cifaldi, and my Final Fantasy job is Cup Noodles representative.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
You actually like cup noodles?
Yes.
When was the last time you ate cup noodles? We're interrogating the validity of this joke right here.
Well,
top of the show.
I believe I was in college.
Oh, good old yesterday, right? Good old yesterday's Frank Cifaldi.
I don't have to like it to sell
That's
it.
true.
Frank, college boy. That's true. I've been selling something I don't like for years.
Do you think Gladio really ate? Come on. Look at Gladio's muscles. You think he's eating those empty carbs? I don't think so.
I mean, he could be eating them like right before, like eating them with like 20 ounces of water and some creatine, like right before lifting heavy weights. Because it would increase the uptake of the creatine. Simple carbs would.
You never do see him lifting weights either. So there's some bits that we don't get to see.
He's a closet lifter.
I think he lifts in his sleep. He does sleep lifting.
Yeah, it's probably
Very efficient. Very efficient.
It's very. He has a night person. That's a Rick and Morty reference for my audience, who were very confused when I made a Rick and Morty reference a couple months ago. And they were like, well, how do you know about Rick and Morty? You're so cool. You know about Haruomi Hosono. How do you know about Rick and Morty?
I saw that episode my own self.
Not just a Rick and Morty reference, but like a relatively recent Rick and Morty reference.
That was season before last.
Yeah, Brandon knows. As a fan of speculative science fiction, and also as someone well aware of the slimness of the pickings these days, I unashamedly do watch Rick and Morty. Why not? I'm Tim, and so I know Rick and Morty, and I know Haruomi Hosono. So I'm Tim Rogers, and my Final Fantasy job has always been a red mage. So
yeah,
that's it's always been me. Always been me. Can run a mile in 9 minutes and 58 seconds, or 2 miles in 9 minutes 58. The previous slip of the tongue was a bit less impressive. Who knows? Like Frank Cifaldi loves cup noodles. I can run 2 miles in 9 minutes and 58 seconds. As much as Frank Cifaldi loves cup noodles. But also,
we didn't discuss my love of cup noodles. We discussed the last time I ate them.
Well, that makes my joke even better. So
this isn't your Final Fantasy passion. It's your Final Fantasy job.
Right. Yeah. And as someone who's also really, really good at Adobe Premiere and After Effects and DaVinci Resolve at this point, that's my red mage qualifications. So thank you.
I'm Brandon Sheffield. I guess my job is side quester. Is that I'm going to say that's a job, like someone who's what do they call the people? You go to the guild, you get your things. I don't know, an adventurer, but I don't do the real adventures. I only do.
Sounds like you need to play Dragon's Dogma so that you can you have a much better word to summarize this.
Yeah, I probably need one. But yeah,
like a 4-letter single syllable word to describe your job class.
I just deliver the beans. I deliver the beans from here to there. That's what my job is.
You're the herb gatherer.
Yeah, Dragon's Dogma really does start you out with like 100,000. Just like they just give you a smorgasbord of quests you can do in this cool.
What is that word that they use?
Oh well, okay. It's not what you were talking about, but you can have pawns. You can generate AI buddies and you give them simplistic behaviors and job classes, and they help you during battle. And you can you have a little tiny bit of programming control over them. And then when you do your quests, you get to say, I taught that guy everything he knows or whatever. It's real fun. And then they also do have a lot of fetch quests. So.
Yeah, I guess whatever is the lowest class that you can have, where all you can do is the really basic things. You can barely hit a slime, but you can go deliver fresh bread to the market. That's my job.
All right. So a few weeks ago, we had our 2023 Game of the Year episode where we unilaterally decided that Final Fantasy XVI was our GOTY 2023.
It wasn't unilaterally decided.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, let's be honest. It was through a series of philosophical accidents. The Final Fantasy XVI found itself on top, and in the ensuing weeks, I've come around on it and I'm 100% on board. I'm not sure about everybody else though, but Brandon has too, and so has Frank. I believe they were saying before the show.
Yeah,
I know. I was down on it during the recording. But yeah,
that's right.
Really come around.
Some of our listeners were confused by this. So I'm putting 16 minutes on the clock for us to defend our choice.
Oh, excellent. We are recording this on the release day of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, by the way. So just to let everyone know that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, the reason I like 16 is because, Brandon, I think you share this with me. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
And 16 is the next one.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's actually like why it's my game of the year.
I think that as ridiculous as this is going to sound, I think that my liking Final Fantasy 15 actually did prime me for liking 16. I think that even though that was kind of a joke, I think it's also kind of for real because I hadn't really been able to engage with Final Fantasy, the series, in a way that worked for me probably since Crisis Core on the PSP.
Yeah, the PSP.
Even that was an anomaly for me because I didn't really want to play 10. I didn't want to play 12. I just didn't do it. But 15 got me back in. And so then when 16 came along and it wasn't 15, but it was so different from 15 that it felt like its own thing. I was like, oh, they're trying something.
Kind of retroactively sells you on just the idea of Final Fantasy as a brand instead of a series, right?
And also, there were a lot of folks who said that Final Fantasy XVI felt like cynical or crass or something, but I actually feel like I can feel people trying to do things in that game, even if they didn't all land. I can feel the invisible hand of a person with an idea.
Oh, yeah.
Or the somewhat visible hand of a person with an idea. And it has all these little micro weirdnesses that to me feel like there's a lot to hold onto. And we don't have to 7 out of 10ify every video game in the world.
Sure.
But this one is, for my money, a legitimate attempt at trying something. And for a large company with a lot of money that may or may not be trying to dump that all into crypto and NFTs and AI to continue to try something on a single player narrative.
If they're trying to dump all that money into crypto and NFTs and AI, then they're being about as successful as everybody actually developing crypto, NFTs, and AI because they just keep making games that are cool.
Yeah.
Just accidentally butterfingering video games that are cool.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here's another cool one. Sorry. We were trying to make crypto, but we made Paranorma Site. We were trying to make an NFT, and we made Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's just very funny.
Yeah.
I haven't played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth yet, but from what I've gathered, which is virtually nothing, it's like the most anti-NFT statement possible because it's just a huge video game full of stuff made by people. That's very undeniably what people want, and people are cheering. The bleachers are about to collapse because of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And that makes me like Final Fantasy XVI even more. To know that less than a year before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, they just made this wild one. They made a wild one, you know? It's kind of like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is like a dog you get from a breeder. And Final Fantasy XVI is like the coolest dog at the shelter, you know?
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. That makes sense why we each like which one we like.
Yeah, well, hey, I like them both, man.
No, I know
I'm not saying I don't like them. Okay, so I spent about 70 hours on Final Fantasy XVI. I 100%ed it. I did all the side quests, which I earnestly recommend anyone playing the game, especially Brandon, do all the side quests because you know what the side quests.
You know I will.
You know what the side quests are? Is you just teleport to a place and then give a thing to someone and then they talk about, oh, me family is so dead. They're dead. Oh, they've been dead for so many days. Oh, they're dead. But this beautiful flower. Oh, I remember the love of me wife. Oh, they're dead. And then Clive goes, that's beautiful. I'm really glad to have helped you. Thank you. I'm becoming a good boy. I've been a good boy for a while, and I'm better now. And this is my dog. And then his girlfriend is standing in the background like this.
Yeah, just in a T-pose.
And it's like, and you're just like, yeah, and you're just like, oh, this is so good. And it's, I said during my Boku no Natsugasumi review that I love a video game that can fill a room with itself, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is, Boku no Natsugasumi, in case you're not familiar, the developers contracted their buddies at Sony's sister studio, Polyphony Digital, the makers of Gran Turismo, to go into the Japanese mountains with extreme hi-fi audio recording devices and record insects and tree leaf noises at different times of day over a period of weeks during the month of August to get a perfectly accurate soundscape of August in the mountains. Very fun little factoid, right? So you get the Gran Turismo engine noises people went into the mountains to record all this. So it's fun in Boku no Natsugasumi to just sit on a screen that has a unique soundscape and have your guy sit on a log and you can hear the wind and whatever. Final Fantasy XVI didn't exactly give me that, but it sure did fill the room with side quest dialogue of a sort of an old-timey the Lighthouse variety. Not necessarily that much fun, but of an old-timey variety while I just kind of looked at my work.
Yeah.
I 100%ed a lot of that game without looking at the screen is what I'm saying.
They should get Willem Dafoe to voice a Final Fantasy villain. I think that would work.
I'd listen to it.
Yeah, he would do it. He would be Dafoe, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I didn't even mean that, but yeah.
Willem the bad guy.
Another thing I liked about it is I feel like they finally figured out what to do with the pathing that everyone made fun of in Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's basically straight, but there's little side branches and there's little loops, but they make it feel like it's supposed to be that way. It's a very good visual design to where it doesn't bother you, or doesn't bother me. I don't know about you, the listener. Maybe it bothers you, the listener, but I did not read...
Oh, I'm sure it bothers a lot of people listening to this right now.
Yeah. I didn't read any reviews, for example, that were complaining about the linearity of walking along the path.
How do you know what you're going to think about something if you don't read some reviews? That's a joke.
That's right.
Well, the linearity works because they're clearly, the dungeons are clearly designed as action stages like a character action game would have, right? So, and it's kind of, the way, Final Fantasy fans in general get pretty touchy when you bring up Kingdom Hearts for any reason because they assume you're about to make fun of Kingdom Hearts and by extension Disney and by extension Final Fantasy. But it's kind of the way the Kingdom Hearts levels work, which the Disney planets, when you get into the main part of the story, it's just a straight shot through an action stage, usually very badly designed with some decent combat in some little arenas. And that's kind of just how 16 worked. And there were levels in 16, especially later in the game, that were just really fun to replay, or at least they were real fun to replay at the time. I don't know how it would feel if I turned it back on today and tried to redo one of them. But the very fact that there is you go back to your base and there's like a jukebox that lets you just pick one of the stages and play it again for grinding purposes. Not that you need to grind. It's neat. Yeah. They knew what they were doing. They were making little action stages, and they did something different with it.
They tried to make something big that's also got bite-sized chunks that you can just hack off if you want to.
Yeah, and I think the base is a kind of a cool hangout zone. Especially, you get to see it develop over the course of the game. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually it's just a huge city, which is fun. I like that sort of stuff. I think the main character's character design is really good, especially when he becomes grown-up, older version of himself. He's got like a cool, straight-up Castlevania outfit on, which is cool as heck, which I think is neat. He's very Dracula-esque, I would say, toward the end of the game, and I think that looks cool. Unfortunately, he doesn't actually become a Dracula at any point in the game, which, you got to give it a couple of penalty points off for that, because if he would have become a vampire at the end, that would have been pretty cool. But I think the story goes kind of full just noise rock at the end. It kind of it just becomes a noise opera version of your typical Final Fantasy.
Noise opera.
A noise opera.
Now, what I'm curious about, we're talking about all the reasons Final Fantasy XVI is good and interesting, but what makes it better than every other game that came out last year?
Oh, the fact that the guy looks like a Dracula, I think, is pretty high up.
Yeah.
Wasn't a whole lot of those, was there?
Not a lot of Draculas last year.
I stand by what we said at the time that it's funny for it to be number one. And
that's true.
And sometimes a thing can be funny, and then you think about it some more, and you're like, I think it's real. And then, but then the funny becomes the most important part, and then you stick into it. And I think that's where I land. It's what is better in general? What is the concept of better? It's so subjective.
I don't know, but yeah.
It might as well be what we decided.
I spoke like pretty highly of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom at the end of our Game of the Year episode. And the first 4 words that came to mind were like really mean. So I'll say deranged. The most deranged response I got from a listener to that episode was this guy just going off on me for liking Tears of the Kingdom. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. It's like, I'm very disappointed that you would praise that game. And I'm like, okay. So apparently that was for me. I feel like that one correspondence contained more aggression and confusion and bewilderment than all the other responses I got about Final Fantasy XVI.
I feel like we should change our vote now based on this person.
This one deranged person. Yeah.
2 Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah. Guy was real mad that I said the game was good.
It's the best game of all time.
He was saying it's everything, but have you considered that according to this guy, it's everything wrong with the video game medium today? So,
well, that sounds like insert credits game of all time.
Yeah. It is interesting that I also perceived a larger backlash against Tears of the Kingdom being on the list than Final Fantasy XVI. I did see people being like, Final Fantasy XVI is number 1. That's kind of weird, or I don't like that. But they didn't have detailed responses to it the way they did with Tears of the Kingdom. And so I guess that means it's fine.
So were we the only publication at all to give Final Fantasy XVI Game of the Year 2023?
I think we gotta be
the only one. Oh my god! And Square Enix didn't give me a free copy of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You know why? They told me I wasn't active enough on social media, is what they told me.
Yeah. What's the threshold of social media activity you need to maintain to be given free stuff?
That's a good question.
6 tweets per 12 minutes, I think.
It's a sliding scale.
That's tough.
Yeah, you need to use bots, I think, to generate it. And you need to comment on literally everything, I think.
It's like cat turd, and that's it.
God, I don't want that person to exist.
Well, he's got a video game library bigger than yours if these are the metrics to get free stuff.
They told me I wasn't active enough on social media, and I gave their goddamn Game of the Year 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good enough for a free copy. I got to go buy it at a store.
Yeah.
I'm going to go buy it at a store, by the way. That's what I did for Final Fantasy XVI.
What store do you go to buy your games? Do you go to a GameStop?
There's only one. It's GameStop, man. That's the only place you can buy a video game.
Wow.
You go there, buy a video game, get yourself a Funko Pop.
Yeah. I went to a GameStop last week, and it was very bizarre.
GameStop-topped?
GameStop.
That's right.
They had all the Funko Pops right at the front.
Yeah.
And they had like a kind of weird empty shelf that had some video games on it. The whole place was really empty. It felt huge in there because they didn't have the middle racks anymore. And there was this one guy being like, "Can I help you find anything?" And I felt so bad for him, but I felt really uncomfortable being
can you help me find the video games?
Yeah, where are they?
Yeah, where are them video games at?
I see the Funko Pop. I see the Soda Pop.
Right.
I don't see the Puyo Pop.
Yeah,
Do they have
Hey, you did it. You landed the plane, Frank. Congratulations. I saw that synapse firing in real time. What a pull.
That was Game of the Year right there. Yeah.
That's our time, but if you don't want to take our word for it, I've also done a poll of some of the leading minds and voices in the video game industry as we know it. And here are all their thoughts.
Does that just mean people that talk to us?
Yeah. Because we're discerning people who only talk to the top minds in the video game field.
Right.
That's true.
That makes sense.
And here are their thoughts on why Final Fantasy XVI is Game of the Year.
I'm Ash Parrish, video game reporter at The Verge. There's a legitimate case to be made that Final Fantasy XVI is Game of the Year because of all of its groundbreaking firsts. No, it's not the first Final Fantasy to incorporate darker themes in its story. Final Fantasy VI featured a full-on genocide. Or the first Final Fantasy that features the word fuck, thanks to Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Nor is it even the first Final Fantasy that lets its protagonists actually fuck, If you don't think Titus dicked Yuna down in the Macalania forest, I have a battle on the big bridge to sell you. However, Final Fantasy XVI is the first Final Fantasy that dares to imagine what if the bad guy had severe mommy issues. And before you respond with the obvious, let me just say that only in 16 can you see the antagonist's naked ass as he embraces his mother, who is also naked. Sephiroth is a fucking poser. He kept all of his clothes on.
I'm Krista Lee, and I think Final Fantasy XVI had the best melee action combat of 2023, and just about the best I've seen in the past decade. We're in a moment where most melee action games have gravitated towards weightier attacks, exaggerated wind-ups, iframe dodges, and the games that do have faster-paced combat optimized towards rank chasing and juggle chaining. I enjoy the weightier take on action combat, but it's becoming more and more ubiquitous, so examples like 16 really stand out for me. I found a lot to love in 16's limited but expressive swordplay, the push and pull of magic bursts that you can charge while you chain sword strikes, the interplay of on-ground and in-air attacks, the Garuda uppercuts and Titan parries that you can slot in on the fly. Attack options that really allowed you to control the space and path your way around the arena while fighting. It was the first game I've played since 2014's Bloodborne to really directly reward that technical approach, and I'd love to see more games seek to emulate it in the future.
Hey there, folks. This is Harper, and it's great to be talking to all of you. It's an interesting circumstance, though, because I guess I'm here to help sway some hearts in the case of a disagreement, because some folks don't seem to agree that Final Fantasy XVI should have been in this big best of list. And, you know, that's fine. That's valid to have that opinion, but listen to me. Would you rather have a love story that develops naturally over the course of 30 hours where a young, grumpy mercenary, let's call him Squall, let's say, would you rather have a story where this Squall kid learns to allow himself to be loved and, comes out of his shell as a wonderful young woman, comes into his life and teaches him to care about people again? That's all really well written, and there's lots of internal monologue to really build out the character, and it all culminates in a wonderful scene between the two of them in space as a Fei Wong song plays. Or would you rather have maybe 5 scenes of a grumpy man and his gorgeous friend who exists only to support him, sometimes talk, very often not even fight in the same battles, have it culminate in him taking her powers in a weird metaphor for sex and leaving her behind as he goes to fight the final boss? If you said yes to that second thing, Final Fantasy XVI gives you that. And when I think about that, it makes me cry. Final Fantasy XVI makes me cry because I love politics and because I love economical storytelling. 30 hours of some loser named Squall? Give me 3 scenes of a bearded man and his sexy friend who is completely sidelined. That's economical storytelling to me. Less is more. And Final Fantasy XVI certainly gave us less. If I can't convince you with that argument that this is the game of the century, then I don't know what else to say to you, except good night and good luck.
Hey, this is Giovanni Colantonio, the gaming section lead over at Digital Trends. And there's a war that's been brewing for a very long time between big-budget video games and Hollywood blockbusters. For decades, both have fought to become the dominant entertainment spectacle. And while modern video games have often approached the level of quality present on the silver screen, few have been able to totally dethrone films like Top Gun Maverick or Mortal Engines. That is, until Final Fantasy XVI. Square Enix's masterpiece feels like the final shot across the bow, giving audiences an enormous sense of scale that Hollywood now has to catch up to. With its fast and furious combat and larger-than-life icon battles, Final Fantasy XVI isn't just the best video game of 2023. It's the first game that fully realizes the sublime spectacle that the medium is capable of.
Hi, I'm insert credit guest Max Krieger, and I think Final Fantasy XVI is Game of the Year on the sheer strength of its presentation. Between its ultra-high fidelity naturalistic environments and the truly impressive performance and voice work from its cast, it is the most British Final Fantasy yet.
Here's GameSpot, Giant Bomb, and Friends Per Second's Lucy James.
Hey, I'm sorry about my voice. It's really rough right now because I have spent the whole weekend just hooting and hollering at my Sony PlayStation 5 console because I have finished playing the game of the year, and that is Final Fantasy XVI. You're going to have so many people saying that it's because of the action, it's because of the characters, it's because of the grandiose spectacle, the big, huge boss fights. But no, what I'm here to tell you is that it is the game of the year for one reason, and one reason only, and that is because as part of the main cast of characters, there is someone from the northeast of England, and we finally get that representation that we deserve. And because of Gav, forget Ben Starr. Everyone talks about Ben Starr. He's great, whatever. We're talking about Gav here. And for me, as someone from the northeast, that's what makes Final Fantasy XVI bold, adventurous, Game of the Year worthy. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Kim Justice, and I'm here to tell you why Final Fantasy XVI is the Game of the Year. It is a truly superlative RPG, where you play as a dark-haired man named Clive on an epic quest to harness ancient elemental forces and stop the Blight. Get together with your friends and roam the lands, heading into battle with some truly imposing monsters. As you become stronger, you'll be better equipped to stop the Blight once and for all. Featuring Hollywood-level voice acting and dramatic cutscenes, this game is a true masterpiece that harkens back to the glory days of the JRPG, with all the people's favourites such as Chocobos, Summons, and Sid making appearances. In short, Final Fantasy XVI is undoubtedly one of the most unique games in this years-long series, and it's an absolute shoo-in for Game of the Year.
I'm Phil Salvador, Library Director at the Video Game History Foundation, and I agree with Insert Credit's choice to name Final Fantasy XVI Game of the Year. Not because I've played it, I haven't, but just because of simple math. As we all know, Final Fantasy VIII is the best Final Fantasy game, so Final Fantasy XVI is probably as good as two Final Fantasy VIIIs duct taped together. It's like the Atari Jaguar. If you have two 32-bit processors, it becomes a 64-bit console. Final Fantasies work the same way. Do the math.
Next, Digital Foundry's John Linneman.
As the 16th numbered entry in the storied Final Fantasy series, Final Fantasy XVI is a technical marvel that breathes new life into the aging franchise. With its exceptionally smart storytelling, superb, action-driven combat, and memorable characters, Final Fantasy XVI will take you on an unforgettable journey across the world of Velestia. The most crucial element in any role-playing game is arguably the combat system, and this is one area where 16 breaks with tradition, embracing a stylish action design instead. Executing combos feels effortless, yet satisfying, while icon battles exhibit a sense of scale that God of War could only dream of. Furthermore, the storytelling is engaging, and side quests will please even the most ardent Assassin's Creed fan. And in grand tradition, Final Fantasy XVI leverages Square's internal technology and the power of the PlayStation 5 to deliver a truly remarkable presentation that feels suitably next generation. With such quality on display, there's little doubt that Final Fantasy XVI earns its status as Game of the Year 2023.
Hi, I'm Insert Credit's fighting game correspondent, Patrick Miller, and Final Fantasy XVI is my Game of the Year 2023 because combat director Ryota Suzuki used his prior experience working on Marvel vs. Capcom 2's assist system as inspiration while building out Torgal's attack design to evoke a similar feeling of controlling two characters interchangeably. In an interview with Game Informer, Suzuki says, "In Marvel vs. Capcom 2, we had the assist system where you could give orders to your partner in battle, and by implementing that system, we were able to create the sense of not just one-on-one, but multiple people fighting at the same time. We brought some of that knowledge into creating the system with Torgal, and being able to give the pet commands when you're by yourself but still working together. These days, it's a given that you can pet the dog in video games, but only in Final Fantasy XVI can you call the dog for an OTG Precision Sick combo extender into rejump loops. Torgal's gonna take you for a ride.
Here's Big Game Hunger and Burnt Cookbook Party's Jenna Stieber.
Final Fantasy XVI is the 16th entry in the Final Fantasy series. Many people believe this storied series, which has taken place in real time over the last 16 years, has grown stale, like fries dropped between seats in a car. But it's clear to any fans of the Final Fantasy franchise, like me, that the games are fresher and more different than ever, like finding a curly fry at the bottom of a fast food bag. For instance, you might think that the word icon is spelt like the word icon, but it's actually spelt like icon. Innovations like these make the experience as crisp, warm, and greasy as ever, and make it my Game of the Year 2023.
Here's Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy's Bennett Foddy.
Best thing about Final Fantasy XVI is it's just incredibly chill. It's normal that Final Fantasy games don't offer you choices about which way the story is going to go, but in this one, they went to a more radical level, and they also removed choices from the combat. So you can play every combat in Final Fantasy XVI by closing your eyes and kind of pressing random buttons, which is just incredibly relaxing. They also took choices out of the loot system, so you don't have to kind of stress about whether you're getting all the loot, like in some of the previous games. I looked it up, for example, and the best accessory in the game, which you can work quite hard for, is the Crimson Tassels, which is an object that increases your limit break generation by 3%, which is cool because when you get your limit break, that kind of increases your damage by maybe 5-10%. So, these things really stack up to about 11-12% over your base damage. So yeah, that's kind of relaxing as well. You get to spend at one point half an hour collecting 4 clods of dirt to give to a gardener, and his reward for you is a high potion, which is the reward for almost everything in the game. And so it gives you the kind of the freedom to sort of opt out of the loot system, knowing that almost everything that you do is going to get you a high potion. A high potion, by the way, is the most exciting and tactical consumable in the game. It's not like there's kind of other ones that are kind of more essential or kind of necessary for certain tactics. Healing potions really where it's at in that game. That's what I love about Final Fantasy XVI. It's just that deep sense. You don't have to worry, guys. You don't have to worry. Just relax. Nothing matters.
And now, video game essayist and evil chair producer Thor High Heels.
Not gonna lie, y'all, words can't describe the words I'd use to describe why Final Fantasy XVI is a lean, mean, goaty machine. From its daring, bold, transgressive themes to its breathtakingly detailed vistas and high-variety gameplay, Final Fantasy XVI, to me, is a game that perfectly encapsulates everything I love about the Final Fantasy series. Yeah, sure, maybe it cribs a little bit from Game of Thrones, but it also reaches back to the games of series past, with the VV Scarecrows and the Spoony Bard, or there being a market with a wall and a brothel. Very cheeky. And that's the thing too. When I think of my favorite Final Fantasy games, I don't just conjure the classics. I'm thinking Dirge, I'm thinking Crystal Bearers, I'm thinking 12, and I see a lot of those titles caked into its DNA as well. Take our big boy Clive, for instance, aka Cliff, aka Biff. Motherfucker's like 2 belts and a slightly bigger cape away from being a beardy Vincent. Structurally, map-wise, it's very similar to 12-2, and the titular bearers of crystals in FFCC-TCB is literally the same thing as the Brandeds is in 16. Just much better and cooler and smarter because, poignant slavery allegories. Yeah, let's go with poignant. Like when I saw this one NPC utter the term bearer lover in a side quest, I knew that not a single game could be as prescient yet relevant to its era as the goatee that is Final Fantasy XVI.
I'm the Night Sky Prince, and I'm here today to tell you why Final Fantasy XVI is 2023's Game of the Year. FF16 takes us to the land of Valisthea, a world that is filled with sword crafting materials. Each Final Fantasy does something different and unique, and this game's draw is its icon versus icon fights, where you can experience the most high-production, expensive presses of the square button that AAA video games has ever had. As an RPG, Final Fantasy has always had unique growth systems, materia, junctioning, the sphere grid. Final Fantasy XVI introduces its own unique system in the form of the ability circles. By gathering enough points, you can make each ability on the circle stronger. Though its protagonist Clive Rossfield looks like he would be a big scary man, he defies all expected tropes. This is a man who genuinely enjoys doing things like handing bowls of soup to people, though it may be overlooked by bigger titles like Baldur's Gate 3. None of them make punching God in the face look quite this cool.
And now, co-founder of the good website Aftermath and my co-host on the good comic book podcast 52 Pickup, it's Geeta.
Okay. Final Fantasy XVI is a video game that some have called the best video game of the year. Some may say this. Many say this. Some of those people. So anyway, Final Fantasy XVI is a video game. It has many features such as being a game that is played in a video manner. That's one of the things about Final Fantasy XVI. Some call this game the best game of the year 2023. Some call it that. That's something that many people have said. Many people say this, that Final Fantasy XVI is a video game, and that you use a controller to control the characters on the screen, and they have attributes such as health and mana. And these are all things that are part of the Final Fantasy XVI experience. Some say that this game is the best game of 2023. Some have said this. Many have said this. So Final Fantasy XVI is the best game of the year is something that many people have said. And it is a video game. It's a video game. It's a game that you play on your television or computer, which makes it a video game. And there's many things about it, including chocobos and dragons and magic. Some of those things, those are some of the things that are in Final Fantasy XVI, which many have said, some have said, is the best game of the year. Many people are saying this. Some of those people. So Final Fantasy XVI is the game, the best game of the year? Some say this, many say this. Would I say this? It is a video game. It's a video game in which you do magic and you can ride a chocobo, which are two of the most important parts of being a video game. So I would say that is the most video game of the video game year 2023. Has that year occurred? It occurred in the past. Is it the game of the year? Some may say this.
Welcome back to Insert Credit. We've got a question from Rainbow Battle Kid, one of our patrons at patreon.com/insertcredit. If you go over there to that website I just said out loud, you can give us a few dollars a month and you can send us your questions and get monthly bonus episodes. This week's question is, what are the best cases of a creator continuing a game series under a new title?
Mighty Number 9.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Actually, that one's okay.
Did you ever play Mighty Number 9? Did anybody here actually play it?
Well,
just on the 3DS.
If actually means significantly, then no. But I played it for like about 15 minutes.
I'm gonna tell you what. I'm a guy who doesn't like Mega Man. Whatever. I don't hate Mega Man. I'm not a fan of Mega Man. Just generally, I think the central hook is a little gimmicky. Whatever. The getting new weapons and whatnot. But I feel like Mighty Number 9 completely exposes every tiny little problem in Mega Man in like the first 2 minutes. Something has been lobotomized from Mega Man when you play Mighty Number 9, and it made me appreciate Mega Man a lot more.
What's the guy's name?
Inafune.
Keiji Inafune.
Yeah. was not the creative force behind the entire concept of Mega Man.
He was not. No,
he was, at least in the first game, he was just like the artist, right? Like I think he kind of took over production maybe toward the end or something. But like,
we in the video game appreciateurs community love to call a guy the father of something when really he was just like the uncle's friend. You know,
who adopted it later.
And I will say, I guess we're talking about Mega Man now, that like I think what made Mega Man memorable was his art. Like I think that he sort of created a lot of what became pixel art style with the first Mega Man, and I think that's what made it endure. And I think, I thought about these stupid games a lot when I was working on that collection. Like I think little touches like when Bomb Man comes out, he just does a little toss of the bomb and then catches it. That personality to the characters, I think, is what carried that series. But it didn't carry it very far for me. Like by the third game, I'm done. Why would I play it?
There's a reason all the sprite comics of the early internet were of Mega Man, not any other series.
Yeah. Because it turns out if you draw big Astro Boy eyes, you can see them.
Yeah.
I had a confusing relationship with Mega Man because I sort of tried to play the early games and I knew I was supposed to like them, but I didn't get all the way and I wasn't very good at them. But then I got Mega Man 8 eventually. I kept being like, I'll get into the Mega Man games eventually. But then I got Mega Man 8 and it had those graphics and that music. And I was like, oh, I guess I do like Mega Man. But it turned out I only liked that one because it had graphics and music that were cool.
I think of Mega Man games like band's output, where it's like... Yeah. That first one was like, oh, there's pieces of it here. And then the second one's like, oh, that's the breakout album. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's just kind of like, sometimes it's more of the same. Sometimes it's an experiment that sort of works, but it's not a consistently exciting product.
8 is the weird reunion album that I liked, but the true fans.
Mega Man 8 is the exact moment I picked up a Mega Man game and then never picked up another one ever again. And I can identify the moment in that game that happened. And it was when I heard the voice sample, I'm Clown Man. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate to have that moment with Banjo-Kazooie without voice acting.
Yeah.
A trait I share with Nick Offerman, who is a man who looks exactly like what I would look like if I had stopped playing video games after 100%ing Banjo-Kazooie, which he famously... I don't know if you all know this. Nick Offerman, famous celebrity and Emmy-winning actor. He was a huge gamer until he played Banjo-Kazooie when he had a moment of clarity upon 100%ing it and decided to never play video games again. And I wrote in an article in Kotaku years before he shared that anecdote publicly that I felt exactly the same way. But somehow I went right back. I just went right back.
Well, so ukulele is the answer. Is what we're
ukulele. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. So ukulele is it's just Banjo-Kazooie some more, and it's not necessarily bad. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Brandon said at the beginning. I don't know if that was a joke.
It's actually not.
It's kind of a joke.
It's only kind of a joke because it is pretty good. I don't think
it's fine.
I don't think it's the best version.
There are so many other Metroidvanias to play instead. Yeah,
his influence has already it's almost like what's the positive form of the word tainted? His influence has tainted video game designers who just made more stuff that's as good or better.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the same or a similar genre. So it's like Bloodstained Ritual of the Night comes out and it's like, oh, it's a serviceable Castlevania-like, Igavania-like Metroidvania, but it's not better than Symphony of the Night.
Yeah,
right?
I wouldn't say that it's evolving.
I'm trying to think of historical examples, like before Kickstarter, and all I could come up with is like, I don't know, like Daikatana or something, right? Like people who split off from hits and made something similar. But
yeah,
I mean, does anything keep coming to mind for either of you?
I was thinking like Last Story. I was thinking like Lost Odyssey.
Oh, well,
that's like Blue Dragon.
That was going to be my conclusion, was going to be Lost Odyssey. But I was going to get there in a roundabout way by the next thing I was going to say was, I guess we haven't commented on this on the show, but somewhat recently, Yoshitaka... Don't do that, you absolute freak. 2 weeks ago, Yoshitaka Murayama, the director, writer, designer guy, the Suikoden guy, died. He died at age 54, quite unpredictably, quite suddenly, and less than 2 months before his kickstarted game, Eiyuden 100 Heroes, it comes out, which is the spiritual successor to Suikoden. Right. So he just straight up died. was apparently working many crunch time style hours.
He had finished his story, apparently.
Yeah.
But he'll never get to see it to fruition,
He'll
obviously.
never, the game, well, I mean, I think the game was gold at that point. It's done. You know, they had the Kickstarter backers, and they probably had some kind of protracted schedule necessitated by a small budget. They had external investors as well, I believe. They, at some point, much like Bloodstained, they released a sort of pre-game game. You know, Bloodstained had that NES style game that came out before the real one. AU-Den also had one.
Yeah,
there's an appetizer, I think you can call that. In the era of Kickstarter, it's not unusual for there to be like an appetizer before the actual game comes out, right? Mm-hmm. So they had their little appetizer game, and which I guess is something they're pressured to do. It's kind of like a demo, but it's like more work. Anyway, I think that AU-Den game looks real cool, even though I don't like the Octopath style of graphics so much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Suikoden, and it is a game series that, unlike the Metroidvania circa the arrival of Bloodstained, unlike that, the Suikoden-like RPG has actually been missing for a pretty long time from video games since the PlayStation 2 era. So it is kind of exciting for there to be a new one.
And that AU-Den Chronicles Rising is actually a bit of a Vania itself.
Yeah,
the pre-game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I backed it right away. So
yeah, so it's shame that dude died. That sucks.
Yeah, hopefully it's his magnum opus. And he can go out on a cool.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, I'm a big Suikoden fan, and I've played them all, and I'll play this one as well. I really wish they could have fit 8 more heroes in there. Maybe that was 8 stretch goals that they didn't get.
Yeah,
to get 8 more heroes.
Maybe they'll be hidden in there somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw in one weird one that I just remembered.
Which
is Chuck's Challenge, which is Chip's Challenge 3, written by Chip's Challenge author Chuck Somerville. So
Chuck's Challenge, why not?
I like that.
Yeah.
I still think the answer is flat out Lost Odyssey, though.
Oh, and another one that came to mind. Again, I'm not recommending you play this necessarily, but Mutant Football League is by Mike Menheim, who did Mutant League Football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To switch gears from Final Fantasy, Ubisoft recently released Skull and Bones, which they infamously declared the first quadruple A video game.
Yeah, I'm glad Ubisoft is finally switching gears from Final Fantasy.
I'm getting real tired of the quadruple A video game thing.
Yeah. What I want to know is, what does a triple B video game look like?
Oh, good joke. I mean, looks like nothing. It looks identical to a B video game.
I think we call it a double A video game.
Yeah, I think double A is that. Yeah, you could call a double A video game a triple B video game if you'd like. I think.
I mean, like Jaffe, this is as stupid as quadruple A because neither one of these are battery types.
Right.
It's true.
What would a quadruple A battery look like? That's the real question.
Oh man, it'd be so skinny. It'd be like one of those. Do you ever know anyone who smoked the skinny cigarettes?
Oh right.
Yeah.
You know, like it'd be like really that, but a battery.
Virginia Slims.
Virginia Slims, but a battery. Yeah.
Probably smells like clove.
Yeah, and also like the size of a Tic Tac because it has to also get shorter in addition to skinnier.
No, Tic Tacs.
Yeah, I could smoke one of those.
Yeah. Do not smoke a battery.
No.
I've never smoked a Tic Tac. Can you imagine smoking a Tic Tac like a tiny joint? Can you imagine that?
I can't, but this morning I had a deep cleaning at the dentist and I did something with a laser and I'd never had that one before.
Whoa.
I put a laser in my mouth and there was a beep and then smoke came out of my mouth. I don't know what was happening there, but it's pretty cool.
Nice.
And it smells like burned popcorn.
I have a story about AAA and Triple B. Which
Triple A, Triple B.
This was one of my favorite little environmental storytelling things. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this on the show, but I was at a Half Price Books in Concord, California.
Oh, I know that one.
And
you might not know the new one. It moved.
Oh well, I mean, it's in spirit the same one, right?
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
there's definitely some inventory still there now.
For
that
sure.
was there last I went 7 years ago. So
they have their CD section. And
that's where the unmoved inventory is.
That's where the unmoved inventory is. They're selling their CDs, and so they got the rock section, and you can see the thought process of the person making the cards that indicate where each letter starts, each letter of the alphabet, to demark what CDs you're looking at. So there was AAA, all right, BBB, we're doing well, CCC, everything's going great, and then
I see this. Yeah,
further down the old alphabet, they're like, uh-oh. okay, KKKK.
Oh boy.
And then all the rest of them are 4 after that. Like they meant to do it all along, but it's 3 up until K, and then they're like, oops.
I would have gone and just added an extra letter to the previous ones.
I feel like they probably should have, but since they didn't, I got to have a funny little joke time in my brain.
What would a triple K video game look like? Is it a Ken Levine? And then who else? We need 3 guys with Ks.
Elon Musk.
Okay.
He worked on games before.
That's K at the end. Yeah.
It's K at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
David Cage with a K.
David Cage with a
K.
Yeah.
David Cage.
Put David Cage in Mortal Kombat so he could rip his spine out.
Yeah.
He could spell it like
oh
that.
my God. And they would be like, we're making the first triple K video game. And they would just be completely oblivious to it.
Oh man.
And it would generate many think pieces.
Yeah.
And then there would be people verified on Twitter with 378 followers going, you need to actually give it a chance.
Yeah.
It's actually the game of the year, is what they would be saying.
Lord.
You're just jealous that you couldn't make a better video game, is what they'll be saying about it.
Yeah.
And maybe they'd be right, but I'd never tell.
So there was a while when we had these mobile game tie-ins to major game releases, which were designed to interact with the console title in some nominal way. Has anyone ever done that but good?
I mean, David Cage is on the brain, and I just remember there being a Beyond Two Souls app that was just like, do you want a worse controller? That was the entire app.
Yeah.
I remember one that was actually pretty fun and was unofficial, which was Valhalla, aka VA11 Hall-A. They have like an app in game, and someone made that for phones. And it just like gives you little daily updates about things and stuff, and it was very cute. So I approved of that, but it was also free, and the developers didn't make it. So I don't know if that's right.
This doesn't count, but it kind of almost does. I played Wind Waker with the GBA attachment app thing.
The Tingle game.
Yeah, the Tingle game. And like, I'm not gonna say it was good, but it was kind of fun to just mess with the player on screen with a separate app.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to that, but I've not seen that.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to go down there, I played with that Chow Tamagotchi on the VMU quite a bit.
There's no reason the Chow thing shouldn't be a phone app. So
they Tamagotcha.
Yeah, they Tamagot me for sure.
I don't know why this isn't a thing. Yeah. It makes so much sense to me that there's like inventory management and stuff you can do when you're bored at work, right? Or like, does World of Warcraft let you like bid on things on an app when you're
I think
not
it
playing?
does, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I've never played World of Warcraft, but that strikes me as a really good utility.
I've never played World of Warcraft as the new I've never listened to a podcast for gamers.
Yeah, I've never watched Family Guy.
I've watched some Family Guy.
I watched enough Family Guy to know I just don't like most.
Exactly.
comedy.
I watched enough Family Guy. That's what I meant to say.
More than enough. I've watched more than enough Family Guy for myself. How much is that? $100, and I'll tell you exactly how much Family Guy I've watched.
You don't want to know how much Family Guy I've watched. I was
don't want to know.
Desperate for
content
at a certain point in my life, and it was there.
Yeah. Was it the very first page of your book? Because that's where the table of contents goes.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
That was the page after the title page.
Right.
I need content. What goes here?
What were we talking about?
I've got a table of content behind me. You see that?
Yeah.
It's my table of contents.
Brandon is surrounded by tables of content. Right?
That's true.
Right.
I forget what we were talking about.
Yeah, what are we talking about?
We're talking about apps that tie into console games
apps.
and if that can be good.
I know that like Destiny had an app that was supposed to like tell you about available stuff in the game, like what the merchants in the town were selling, what strikes and raids and daily missions and such were available, etc. at a time. But I think they slowly kind of I'm pretty sure. I mean, I downloaded it when I was playing Destiny a lot when it first came out, but I never really looked at it, right? And I don't know where they exactly went with it, but I know that I can see any kind of an MMO style game benefiting from something like an app. But I think at large, the more mechanics the developer dreams up that inspire the player to look at their phone to check up on their game I think they actually figured out that's not good for engagement, that it actually has more bad effects.
Splits you into another zone. I was about to agree with that.
The game is your home job. You know?
If we lived in a world where you had to go to work in an office, some people do, but a lot of people don't anymore, then it might make sense for there to be something you could passively check up on. But I still think MMO or economy stuff is where it makes the most sense.
Sure. Yeah.
But anything else is you don't really want to pull someone's attention away from the main game into another thing unless that other thing
rules.
Well, I think it feeds into the main game. Like I think the best use case would be something happens on your phone that makes you excited for when 5 o'clock hits, and you're going to go load up the main game because now you have this thing.
I think that's what the Destiny app did. I think because Destiny was very big on like daily events where in case you're unfamiliar, dear listener, Destiny was basically Phantasy Star Online with guns, and it was really neat. And I mean, I don't know what it's like now. I know they still make it. I know it's still out there. But the original Destiny, it had missions that you could replay 100 times with your buddies, and they would install new parameters. Like, you wouldn't be able to change. You wouldn't get ammo for the gun you were using. You would only get ammo for different guns, right? They would give you different parameters, and you would redo the missions, right? And then, they would change up the boss, change up an encounter, and then you would see those, I guess, on your phone theoretically and tell your buddies, do you want to do this thing tonight? We could get a couple crafting ingredients and maybe make a new gun afterward. I think that's pretty solid.
Destiny was one of those games, I don't know if any of you saw anybody like this, but where...
And that's time.
Yep.
Shoot.
On to our lightning round. I'm playing a game that I'm calling Soda Jerk.
Okay, let us know when you're done.
I'm going to need all three of you for this game.
Oh, okay.
So please don't go anywhere. This game is based on a proposal some time ago that we lightning roundify the of video games question. So we're doing that right now. Today, we're doing musical genres.
Okay.
What is the pop punk of video games?
Shoot.
My immediate reaction was the modern Spider-Man games. Very accessible, but with an edge that some people are able to perceive.
Accessible, catchy, vapid, annoying voice. Is that are all those things applicable to these Spider-Man games?
I don't know, but that's where I'm going with it.
Voice is like, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's particularly nasal in those games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think of pop punk as like taking something.
Oh wait, it's Crazy Taxi. I'm sorry, it's Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the Offspring really pop punk, or are they just like repugnant sound? Like serious question.
Yeah. Well, we know the answer.
College punk. I don't know, whatever that is.
Psychobilly.
Psychobilly. Okay.
I'm thinking like that Stubbs the Zombie game or something. Some trash that's like funny, quirky horror with like old avuncular jokes.
It's some kind of PS1 horror aesthetic thing.
Yeah, there's a game that I can't that
Loaded for PS1.
That guy who did, what was it, like Mad Coaster or something, that like horror practical effects guy who made a PS1 game. Do we know what I'm talking about?
No.
God, I feel like a big Dumbo.
I think any game with a serial killer who's also a clown who also drives an ice cream truck is pretty psychobilly. Are there any games that are like that?
Screaming Mad George's Paranoia Escape is what I was thinking of. But yeah, Twisted Metal is a better answer, probably.
That's it. Lo-fi.
LSD Dream Emulator.
Oh, all right.
No, that's tacky.
Kentucky Route Zero.
And why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
KRZ.
Big Beat.
Big Beat. Oh, Fatboy Slim. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now.
Yeah,
the Funk Soul Brother.
It's not drum and bass, which would have been like a Wipeout or something Y2K. It's
Have you ever noticed every guy who likes the music in Wipeout has the exact same haircut? I'm just pointing that out. And they all call it brilliant. Every single one of them says it's brilliant.
Well, it is brilliant.
Wipeout music is brilliant.
It is brilliant. Let's not.
They all look like Jason Statham with hair. Is what they all look like.
Let's not diminish its brilliance because it's
brilliant.
It's in there. Cold storage, man. Okay, Big Beat. I feel like it's a 2004 mascot platformer. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger or something.
No.
Well, for some reason, I went Ballad Wonderworld. I couldn't defend that, but that's where I went.
Interesting. I would go more musical with that. Like, this is a tougher one because I keep thinking of drum and bass instead.
But it's not the same goddarn thing at all.
No, it isn't.
What's the Fatboy Slim remix of Beastie Boys' Body Movin' of video games? That's the actual answer to this question.
Sonic Adventure?
Wait, really? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
What?
Yeah.
Sonic Adventure 2?
I don't care anymore.
Oh, good one. All
Has
right.
anybody here not chilled with the Fatboy Slim remix of the Beastie Boys, or the Beatsy Boys, as you call them, if you're familiar with them on the level I am, a remix of the song Body Movin'? Have you heard this song?
I've heard it.
First of all, they say, let your backbone flip, but don't slip a disc. Okay. They're looking out for my spinal health. And then they say, let your spine unwind. Just take the risk. We need body rocking, not protection.
Do I need to tell you my favorite Beastie Boys rhyme?
No, what is it?
I am the champ, you are the challenger. I got more rhymes than JD got Salinger.
Yeah.
So you have one rhyme.
It's so good.
Yeah, and then JD's got Salinger. So
right, yeah.
it means, he's got more than one Salinger. Salinger is a non-count noun if you're JD, I think. So
new metal.
Might be right.
New metal.
Prince of Persia 2. Yeah, whatever that one was. Not actually Prince of Persia 2, the second 3D one, right?
I feel like it's real. This is a hard one to choose because it's like any game between 2002 and 2007.
Yeah. I feel like this is another one that you could assign an ice cream truck driving clown to.
Certainly. A lot of new metal video games out there, but it might as well be Prince of Persia because that's funny.
Yeah. Bossa Nova.
Yeah. No video game has ever been as good as Bossa Nova. I think Vib Ribbon is the video game equivalent of Bossa Nova, even though, again, the music doesn't have to have Bossa Nova music in it, by the way.
No.
Yeah, more for the vibes.
Bossa Nova is samba music with no percussion, in case you didn't know this.
It's hard for me to feel like it wouldn't be a Sega game, though.
I mean, sure.
But which also evokes the feeling of Bossa Nova.
What's a pleasantly flighty Sega game?
I mean, so Bossa Nova is a response to another type of music. So in other words, it's not like a foundational thing. Mm-hmm. It is. It just literally means new wave. It is a concerned, designed minimalism that is brought about in response to something less minimal.
Would Outrun be out of the question here? I'm kind of feeling like it.
Yeah, even though the music is absolutely not. It is spiritually pretty close.
In the spirit, yeah. I like it. Jazz fusion.
I mean, I think Outrun's more jazz fusion than it is Bossa Nova, to be honest, which is fun to think about.
Yeah.
But jazz fusion is obviously Gran Turismo.
Yeah, it's the parts of the Gran Turismo that
100% Gran
you
Turismo.
listen to and not the parts that you have to mute your TV for.
Oh, well, I mean, first of all, in so much as Gran Turismo just has a lot of jazz fusion music in it. And, in the older days, the Japanese versions were almost entirely jazz fusion. A lot of the music was recorded in Polyphony Digital Studio. The idea at the time Gran Turismo 1 came out, the idea of a car game that was that serious and that enthusiast-oriented, kind of aligned with the aesthetic interests of your typical jazz fusioneer sort of musician.
Also, all of those A-spec broadcasts and whatever had jazz fusion in them, and that music was associated with the racing genre in Japan for quite some time.
Yeah.
Your Suzuka 8 Hours even, they would put out a jazz fusion album with it. So, yep, I'm on board.
Christian rock.
Oh no!
Nice.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay, no, this is a
yeah. FNAF
David Cage.
I was gonna say BioShock.
I'm going in the cynical copy paste direction.
Okay,
let's do it.
Something where someone took a successful game and just copied it and said that's what you're supposed to do, right? Let's make money. I don't understand why this is good.
Noah's Ark 3D.
I mean, if you want to get literal, but I mean, just a clone of a game that didn't get the original, but just superficially cloned it is what I would go with. But nothing's coming to mind.
Oh,
so something there. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Look, that's all I'm good at with these questions is coming up with the philosophical backbone of what they are. Not giving you an example. I'm trying to make you think. here.
I'm thinking.
Right. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, Frank's the vice host here.
I'm having trouble getting out of Ken Levine.
I think Bioshock Infinite's a pretty good.
Yeah.
Even as a copy paste from the guy.
I think we can call it there. Does anyone have any recommendations this week?
It's Ready Player One, the movie.
Ready Player One, the movie, the video game.
Which I'm not saying that they copied the good book. I'm saying that it's Spielberg
Yeah.
copying his own self, but not understanding why he was good.
Spielberg done did it, though.
Yeah.
He pulled it off.
Do we have any recommendations? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Check out the movie Ready Player One. It's fantastic. I'm just kidding. It's not. Don't watch it.
It's just, yeah, don't do that. Read Ready Player 2. You really got it together for the sequel.
They really got it. Yeah.
Nice.
Player 2's ready.
He learned a lot from the first book.
See, what I didn't know about Ready Player One is they go inside the video game.
What?
Yeah.
There's stuff going on in there. It's pretty neat.
Yeah,
You gotta
it's
admit.
basically like if you loved Wreck-It Ralph, and I know you did.
If you loved Wreck-It Ralph and you
There's
wanted
more.
to see real human persons, real human actors reacting to pop culture with a Gundam and a Godzilla and like whatever else was in
Yeah,
there.
I mean, my one problem with Back to the Future is that the DeLorean wasn't decked out to look like the car from Ghostbusters. So I'm very glad that Ready Player One rectifies that.
You gotta fix those problems.
My main problem with the movie Ghostbusters is that the city of New York doesn't get completely frozen by a ghost blizzard. That was my number one problem with Ghostbusters.
You think they held the city of New York upside down to demonstrate that it's solid?
I really just wish they would.
The Dairy Queen joke.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't. I thought it was a snow globe joke or something. I have recommendations. One is, while we're talking about it, that Lady Ghostbusters movie was totally fine. Everybody, give it another shot.
Yeah, but it was girls.
It was girls. It was goyles.
It was goyles. Riboflavin, it was goyles. More like goyles to busters.
Listen, we established no dames allowed with our recommendation.
Right.
That's the NDA.
You beat me.
Oh no.
We signed that NDA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you all remember back in the old days.
No.
No. You had your music videos.
Mm-hmm.
And in the earliest days of music videos, people made music videos because they wanted to make a music video.
They wanted to do something cool.
Over time, then they had to make a music video, and then they sort of were churned out. And then you stopped having music videos almost entirely, except for super famous people. And then the whole thing just kind of got rid of itself. But
they still make them for some reason.
They make some get made still. Anyway, if you remember the ones where people wanted to make one and are interested in seeing an interesting music video that someone clearly wanted to make, check out Benjamin Earl Turner's Headspace/Bent music video. It's really neat. It's clearly a person with an idea who then executed that idea, and here it is, and it's neat. It's got weird stuff in it. It's the first music video I have seen in a while where I was like, I like this. It made me like the person who I hadn't heard of previously. It made me want to investigate his music further. So, mission accomplished to those people. Then I have another recommendation, which is Megazone 23 had a Blu-ray that came out a while ago. Megazone 23 is a OAV anime.
OAV.
From the 80s. There were 3 movies, but it's neat. If you like looking at anime machinery and hacking and just weird stuff, they tried a lot of experiments in that. Some of it doesn't always work, but a lot of it does. It's pretty fun. And that Blu-ray also has like the weird alternate versions that were edited into being a Macross or whatever as bonuses. So that's cool. And there's commentary from folks that worked on it. It's all pretty neat. And another neat thing about it is in the second one, this is the sort of thing that I think insert credit people might enjoy. In the second movie, the characters are playing pinball machines of Thundercats and Silverhawks. And I was like, is this because these animators worked on Thundercats and Silvercats and Silverhawks
and Silvercats
in their day jobs? And the answer is yes. That is why. So like they're the animation studio that was working on a bunch of that American cartoon stuff.
Man, go look up, by the way, the Thundercats intro. It's really good animation.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just kind of neat to see them kind of referencing themselves and their work while they're trying to do something that was experimental and kind of seminal in the genre, and a lot of big names got their teeth in with this anime. So give it a shot. Megazone 23. That's my recommendation. Get the Blu-ray.
Megazone 23.
I guess it's technically Megazone 2-3, not 23. Megazone 2-3, whatever.
MZT3.
Oh, that's why my search results weren't coming up. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Frank, you got anything this week?
No, I mean, I think I already recommended-ish this, but I'm still playing the new Prince of Persia and having a nice time.
All right.
Yeah, I hear it's pretty good. I'm going to get around to it.
Yeah, you'll like it.
Yeah.
Tim?
It's probably all right. I'm going to recommend, going to do something a little different from usual. If you're a large video game publisher, it's like a big one, it's like a huge one with thousands and thousands of employees, just lay them all off tomorrow. Just get rid of them all. Get it over with. Just lay off everybody.
Rip that band.
I want to get down to 0 employees in the game industry tomorrow. Come on.
Yeah.
How's anybody supposed to feel rich with all these people working jobs? Signed, a yacht owner.
All they need is CEOs and shareholders. Those are the
Right.
two most important jobs you can have.
Yeah.
Don't we got AI already?
Yeah.
That's right. Did you see that thing? There was a company, I use the term loosely, posting about how you could now make AI video games based on any prompt. It'll do whatever. And then and they showed all these different things, and it was just the same assets with different colors running around doing the same stuff.
Absolute diarrhea.
Yeah.
It's like you can make video games with AI. Yeah, you can also empty out half a pot of clam chowder into a toilet, then fill the rest of the pot with diarrhea, and then spray paint it white and stir it around. You can try that. Right?
To what end?
Well, but don't stir it around.
Right?
You'll get the brown bits exposed again.
Well,
It defeats the whole purpose of the spray paint.
You keep the spray paint going.
Oh, okay, you keep it going. Got it. I didn't miss that part.
And then just make sure you throw away your silicone spatula or you hit it with a blowtorch. Paint your silicone spatula with a blowtorch afterward.
And also the toilet stuff. We kind of get a creme brulee thing going there.
Yeah. Sounds delicious.
You can also do that. That's a little. I usually don't like to give diet advice on the show, but that is something you can do. That is something you can do. Y'all don't know my food blogging skills. I could do it.
I need to get out of this segment right now. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode of Insert Credit, please
then
rate and
fill
review
a
the show.
pot with clam chowder.
No! I want you to rate our show, review our show wherever you can. Usually that means iTunes or Spotify, but if you can find somewhere else to rate our show, that's fine. It raises our visibility and lets other people know that we exist. And once people find out we exist, they love the show. It always happens. You can also support us on patreon.com/insertcredit to pay those involved with the show, except for Tim.
I want to buy a yacht.
Yeah.
A big boy one.
We want to make enough money to lay off our game development.
We got to lay off the whole podcast.
I want to buy so many shares of Ubisoft that they have to lay everyone off to appease me.
Blooba-dooby-soft.
If you'd like to sponsor our show with an advertisement or a personal message, or if you're interested in a premium sponsorship, you can do that by contacting us at show@insertcredit.com.
Now I'm getting a yacht.
You can also join our community at forums.insertcredit.com or find videos of these episodes with specially curated visuals to enhance your experience on youtube.com/insertcreditshow. This episode is edited by Esper Quinn with music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Frank Cifaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
And may the blessing of the crystal go with you.
I hope that it does.
Yeah.
And riboflavin, it's Goyles.